Welcome to On the Fly College Edition, a podcast presented by Playfly Sports. I'm your host, Gene DeFilippo. Playfly Sports is the full-service marketing and media company bringing digitally enabled innovations to the sports industry. Welcome to On the Fly College Edition. I'm your host, Gene DeFilippo, and today we have two special guests. One, the very successful Director of Athletics at the University of Virginia, Carla Williams. And our other guest is Mike Schreiber. He is the founder and CEO of Playfly Sports. This will be a great podcast today. Carla, you've had successes everywhere that you've been along your career. There's a lot of administrators, a lot of women administrators that are very, very proud of you and have seen your rise through the ranks, so to speak. Take us from your days at college up through the present time as Director of Athletics at Virginia.
Okay. First of all, thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun. So I'll try to go quickly because there's a lot in there. I was a student athlete at Georgia. I'm appreciative of athletic scholarships because that's the only way I would have gone to college is through that athletic scholarship. I played for 4 years, had a great experience, went to graduate school at Georgia, worked in the athletic department for Liz Murphy, a longtime women's athletic director at Georgia. Um, Once I graduated from my master's program, I became an assistant coach with the women's basketball program there at Georgia. So I was coaching with my college coach, learned a lot as a coach, wanted to be an administrator, did not want to be a head coach, but I felt like the coaching experience would really help me as an administrator, and it has. To this day, it helps me. So had a great experience as a coach. I coached for 5 years. And then I got into administration through compliance. So compliance is kind of a foundation for what we do. And so that was an easy transition for me to move into compliance. My husband finished his PhD and got a job at Florida State as a faculty member. So we moved to Tallahassee. I did not have a job, and Dave Hart was the AD there at the time. Vince Dooley, who was the AD at Georgia, called him and put in a good word for me. So I ended up working in student services at FSU. Realized that they had a great graduate program in sport administration. So I went back to school to get my PhD in sport administration. From there, went to Vanderbilt, worked at Vanderbilt for 4 years. I had a great experience there. And in 2004, I went back to Georgia and gained experience every year that I was at Georgia, more and more responsibilities, more and more experience. And then in 2017, was very fortunate to be named the athletic director here at Virginia.
And you have done a terrific job, I might add.
Thank you.
Yes. Carla, tell us what you think are some of the characteristics that successful leaders have.
Well, I just got off of a mentoring session with a group of our middle managers and assistant coaches here in the athletic department, and we talked about that. Um, for me, and I know some people think this is a cliche, but I think you have to be willing to serve in order to be a great leader. And and growing up through the ranks from a student athlete to a coach to a GA, in all of the different areas of athletics that I've worked in through the years, um, I feel like, and I know this is true because I pay close attention to it. There isn't anything I don't ask my staff to do that I haven't done. And even with our coaches, there isn't anything any expectations that I have for our coaches that I didn't have for myself, whether it was the X's and O's or the recruiting or managing the student athletes. Um, so I think that being willing to serve others is important, and I think it's especially important in today's world of college athletics when there are so many external pressures. Um, the business of college athletics still hasn't changed. We are using sports to educate and develop young people. That hasn't changed, and so you have to have a certain level of a servant's heart to do that. You have to have a certain level of humility to be able to lead. I think that's really important because I'm always trying to learn and grow. And if you don't have humility, then you may not think there's anything you need to learn and grow from. And so I think humility is really important. Hard work. I don't know any other way other than to work extremely hard. I've always done that. I've always had to do that. I just think it's really important for leaders to be willing to roll up their sleeves and get in there in the trenches and work. I think that's really important also. There are many things. I think education is obviously important, not just personally to try to get as much education as you can as an individual, but to always remain a champion of education. There's so many things pulling student athletes in different ways that we don't want the educational piece of this to get lost. So being a champion of education, I think, is a valuable asset for leaders. There's a quote that I like. It's called "The Future," or it says, "The future belongs to the competent." So I think that while we love what we do and it's fun and rewarding and all those things, we have to be really competent to do a good job and to be a good leader. And so my efforts to always learn and then to always share what I've learned to others is really important to me. And I think all great attributes for leaders.
Carla, you and I came up the same way, and not a lot of athletic directors are doing that anymore. I came up, I graduated from college, went to the University of Tennessee as a graduate coach, coached football there, coached football at Youngstown State in Ohio, then on to Vanderbilt. Got out of coaching, became an administrator for 10 years as an assistant, and then an athletic director. There are advantages to every way to get to the top, but I do think that it's a lot easier, and I think coaches and players can relate to someone who has played the game, who has coached the game, and who now has administered the game. And I think when you start at a new school or a new institution, I think you have the attention of those student athletes right away, because they say, hey, you know what? She did that when she was in school, and I can do some of the things that she did.
Yeah.
So I think that's really good.
Yeah.
Now, Mike, I want to get you in on this. At Playfly, we are very fortunate to be partners with the University of Virginia with their MMR rights, as well as some of the creative things that you and Carla are doing. Can you speak to the partnership here and some of the things that that are going on between Playfly and UVA?
I get a double benefit out of this relationship, which is fun, because not only is it good business, but I'm a UVA grad and a big Cavalier fan and love the program. And so I get we have a team not only that sits on the ground with Carla and her department, but we also have a group that sits in Charlottesville also as part of our college division. So I get to spend a good amount of time down there in Charlottesville and get to meet with Carla and her team on a more than a regular basis, probably, than some of our other partners. Not only because I love being in Charlottesville, but we have a whole bunch of teammates there. But it's great. So it's exciting just to be a part of the the sort of the UVA sphere here in helping the school and the athletic department. But I mean, from my perspective, we've actually had some fun stuff going on between us, some things that I'm really proud of, and especially some items that, you talk about multimedia rights, but really when we can have what I call a triple win, which is taking a commercial experience plus a social experience and then combining it with the UVA athletic experience. And one of those triple wins is our Boys and Girls Club initiative that we partner with Carla and her team on, which is basically we've organized an initiative across all the Boys and Girls Clubs across the state of Virginia, and set up a program where we not only help support each of the programs, mentoring, bring them into the UVA athletics experience once a year and have the kids walk through the full experience of being a student athlete at University of Virginia. But we also add sponsors to it to support it. So it brings value to both the Boys and Girls Club Association as well as to the University of Virginia. So those types of initiatives where you're really bringing social cause into our commercial relationships is something that I just get excited about and love that, that project. I'm so proud of, both of our teams for being able to continue that active engagement with the Boys and Girls Club every year. So that's just one example that I get excited about.
Carla, what can you add to that?
Yeah, we love that program. It's funny how when you talk about the social aspect and the community aspect, how you start doing one thing and it blossoms into something else. And so our efforts to really help with technology at Boys and Girls Clubs, it has exposed the kids in the Boys and Girls Clubs to our coaches, to our administrators. And I've actually had some follow-up from some of the directors of the Boys and Girls Club to just find out more and to explore how to bring their clubs to our sporting events. So it goes full circle. And then, kids may not have exposure to a college campus, but for these athletic events. And then you get them on campus and you get them thinking about college and, so it's a complex, I know, it's commercial, it's social, it's sporting events, but it's so substantive because you're impacting kids in ways that they wouldn't be impacted otherwise.
Yeah.
Great.
Agreed.
Let's go back to Carla. Carla, what advice would you give to a young Carla Williams on her way up the athletic administration ladder?
Thicken your skin a little bit more.
You sure need to when you're an AD, that's for sure.
The impact that coaches have on student athletes cannot be understated. And my college coach is my mentor to this day.
Andy Landers,
and he recruited me when I was 15 years old. And I talk to him often now, and he knows this. I think he was the meanest coach in all of college sports, but we loved him, and he was tough on us, and he pushed us, and he expected more from us. And I carry that with me to this day. And so when I say, thick skin, I really do mean that, because these jobs require that, but so does being a student athlete. When you're a student athlete, you have to suffer through losses, injuries, underperformance, all of those things that are benefits of participation help you in life. They help you grow and develop and get up when you get knocked down. So I would say, appreciate those moments when you think it's too tough. It's going to help you in the long run. I would say enjoy the championships a little bit more. They don't always come around every year. And I know I've been spoiled in that regard, and had the opportunity to work with some great coaches at some great places, but enjoy the championships. There's a lot of hard work that goes into those for the student athletes, trainers, academic counselors, nutritionists, everyone. So enjoy those a little bit more. I'm doing it a lot more now, but if I could go back, I would have started mentoring sooner and earlier in my career. And I know I do a lot of it, but there's so much of it needed. When I wanted to be an athletic director at this level, there was no one who looked like me at all. And my mentors were Vince Dooley, and Todd Turner and Dave Hart. Those were my mentors, and they helped me along the way. And so when I didn't see anyone that looked like me, they inspired me to believe that I could do it. And so now it's really, really important for me to try to be that inspiration for others.
Well said. Very well said. When you were coming up with Andy Landers, you had some terrific teams. He taught you more about life than just basketball.
Yeah.
I'm a friend of Andy's. I've always admired him. I spent 13 years in the Southeastern Conference. Just talk about some of the lessons you learned from being with a coach like Andy Landers.
Yeah. You could not settle. When practice is hard, when school is hard, when conditioning is hard, or weightlifting is hard, you need people around you that will not allow you to just settle. And so he was and is that person that was always pushing us to be better. And there are several of his players that are doing some amazing things today in different industries. And to a person, we'll tell you that we got our toughness from Andy Landers. We got our due diligence from Andy Landers. We got our motivation, our internal motivation from him. So, we won a lot of games. I don't think there's any coincidence between, Hall of Fame coaches who are excellent teachers and mentors that also win a lot of games. And so it was the absolute best place for me as a 17-year-old. I went to college when I was 17. And I wanted to be in a comfort zone, and you can't be in a comfort zone and pursue excellence. And he just would not allow us to settle in a comfort zone. And that is a huge gift. It's immeasurable.
Yeah. Tom Landry once said it best. He said that a coach's job is to make someone do what they don't want to do and see what they don't want to see. So through the years, they can be the very, very best that they can be. And
yeah,
certainly Andy Landers did that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about your career, and you've had a lot of successes. What are some of the things that have been most rewarding to you as you've gone about climbing the ladder of success?
Seeing kids like me earn college degrees.
Yeah.
I mean, I just there's no other country on the planet. There's no other organization on the planet that has educated so many young people like we have through sports. And so being able to help with recruiting, to this day, I help with recruiting in all of our sports. And, so being able to see young people cherish this opportunity to be at a place like Virginia, to excel in their sport and earn an education at a premier institution. I just love seeing that. I mean, it is why I do what I do. If we can win championships on top of that, then it's great. And we have, and we want to, and we want to continue to do that. And I have fun at the ring ceremonies and at the banner unveilings and all of that. But knowing that they have an education that will serve not only them, but generations after them is really, really rewarding for me.
That's a great answer. I think I'm right on this. I think I've heard this correctly, but the GI Bill coming out of World War II provided more scholarships than ever in history. But the NCAA is second to that in giving young people an opportunity to go to college when they wouldn't have had that opportunity without the scholarship.
Yep. And can I give you a distinction?
Please.
So that is true about the GI Bill. But when you look at women and people of color, the NCAA is number one.
Correct.
Yep. Number one.
Correct. That's great. Well, thank you for throwing that in.
Yeah.
Okay. Take a breather here. Carla, is there anything that you would like to say that I haven't asked you?
For young people or really any administrators that aspire to be athletic directors or that aspire to advance in this profession, don't ever forget that we are in these positions because there are student athletes. And without student athletes, you don't need an athletic director. And they are the most important reason to do what we do, and just don't ever lose sight of that.
Right. I used to tell my staff all the time, I'd say, now remember the reason we're here. We're here for these student athletes. The coaches, they can grade on you at times. I know because I was a coach and you were a coach and we had those blinders that all we saw ahead was the next game. I said, but you have to forgive them. They're coaches, and that's what you think about when you're a coach, but don't ever take it out on the student athletes.
Oh, yeah.
Mike, is there something that you would like to say before we get off?
I love these podcasts because it's really about leadership and great leaders, and I learn myself. I mean, even in the examples you used, Carla, like it's great for me. I love to learn about different leadership styles, new ways to think about, motivating young people. And it's exciting for me to be a part of these discussions, especially when it's a partner, Carla, like you and the team at UVA. But I just think we're having fun. I mean, we even, the whole concept that you're building there with the master plan, Carla, at Virginia, and the whole that whole multi-year model to continue to build and grow the athletic program is exciting for me. Double win for me from both a business perspective and a personal perspective. So,
hey, Carla, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask you, Mike. That's a great point. Tell us about that master plan that you put together. That's been delayed a little bit by COVID, but it's going to crank up here pretty soon.
Yeah, we're fortunate. We've got some great facilities. We've got a ton of great coaches, and I always pay respect to Craig Littlepage because he hired the bulk of these coaches. And so we've got great facilities, and we've got some facility needs. And so we're going to build a new football operations center. We're going to build an Olympic sport operations center. We're going to build a center for citizen leaders and sports ethics. So that's a big part of our capital campaign because we believe that that's a critical part of being a student athlete is everything related to leadership and career development and community engagement. Personal development is a big part of it. So we're about halfway through, and we've raised a lot of money, and we've got a lot of money yet to raise, but we are chugging along and looking forward to that project going to its completion.
I'll throw in a plug for you, Carla, here, though. It's virginiasportsmp.com.
Yes.
By the way, if you want to check it out, it's an awesome example of all the details on the plan. And if anybody wants to get involved, we're helping out with some of the naming rights as well and some of those platforms. But it's it's exciting, and that's actually, there's a pretty cool video. We were just talking about it pre-launch of this podcast. There's a really cool video when they imploded U-Hall, the old basketball arena. That's inspirational to me because I spent a lot of time in that building. But yeah, it's a fun site to check out. It's virginiasportsmp.com. So check it out.
You got to help us fundraise. You're doing a great job right there.
Yeah, I'm in it.
But you know what? You are helping us fundraise because what you guys are doing for us through all of our multimedia rights and all of the visibility that we have and the branding helps us not just with our sports, but also with our donors and our supporters continuing to support us. So thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank
It's
you.
exciting.
Well, we're out of time on this week's podcast. I want to thank Carla Williams and Mike Schreiber for being our guests. They provided us with some tremendous information, which I'm sure that will be used by a lot of the listeners out there. I'm Gene DeFilippo. Thanks for your time this time, and we'll see you next time. We're out of time on this week's On the Fly College Edition. I'm your host, Gene DeFilippo. Thanks for your time this time, and we'll see you next time.